Chapter Hospitalities, France, August 1997, page 3 out of 7. So, remember the one before? Well, it was 2. He convinced his customer, so the gas owner, the gas bar owner, I ate a sandwich and he, by 6 something there, he convinced the owner. He convinced his customer, Jean-Louis Chabrier, a reference number 22, to take me. Once arrived in La Brede, I savored another coffee, then walked along a river canal for 2 hours, up to Bègle. I started to be late, and the fatigue grew quickly. I positioned myself to hitch again for today, last time. The last time, I get a ride, wherever I go, I get there, I'll stay there. But it wasn't working, and I didn't have much heart for it anymore. I could see on the other side of the street a few people having coffee on an hotel patio. I told myself, let's go have another coffee. Maybe that would give me for sure enough courage to continue. I said to while being greeted by François the waiter that all I wanted was to go on a patio for coffee, no food. He brought me a coffee. We spoke together for a good 15 minutes. He came back right away after and deposited on my table a room key and told me that the room was offered for the night. That breakfast was from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m., but I had to vacate the room with my luggage by 10 a.m. because it was already reserved. I tried to refuse by telling him that in Canada I had some friends that worked in big hotels like in Lake Louise or Banff, and sometimes they would offer me a room for free, but in the morning I had to leave the room illico presto and incognito before the supervisor would show up. To this, with a smile, he declared, "No problem. I'm the owner. Je suis le patron." Wow. A bed, TV, a hot shower. My last shower dated back from August 21st in Grenoble at the Motel Le Bison offered by Fabrice Saint-Nautier, reference number 12. I got up feeling brand new. I had took another shower, breakfast, thanked François, and here I go again. The big news of the day, the Pope is coming to Paris. I walked up to Bordeaux Center, and there Mohammed Abdelaziz, reference number 23, picked me up. Right after it was Marie-Claire Lachapelle, reference number 24, turned to do the same. My day closing ride was Sylvie Ferland, reference number 25. Before dropping me off, Sylvie kindly invited me for a coffee and a sandwich on a patio. We talked for a good hour or so. We had many things in common. It ended up to be pretty hard to say each other goodbye, but we had to. I don't remember exactly where I slept the night of the 24th, probably somewhere outside, but August 25th turned out to be quite eventful and full of surprises like you will be able to see or to hear or to read. My ride of the 25th, Vincent Gaillard, reference number 26, got the day going, followed by Philippe Berton, reference number 27, affirmed to me, with perhaps a little touch of sarcasm, that hailing himself from Pont-Hérisson, that according to Yannick Jolin, a patois is like a language storyteller, that Pont-Hérisson was the world navel. Stop looking at your navel. Jackie Bruce, reference number 28, brought me to Villers. We looked through many very detailed road maps trying to locate Passe-Avant-sur-Léon, but to no avail. But Jackie had been there once with family members or some friends. He was real sure that I had to change direction once in Villers. And Villers is not really big, right? I had coffee and bought tobacco at the cafe across from the church. Now I have 5 francs remaining. At the cafe I inquired from a few customers where would be Passe-Avant-sur-Léon. There was a whole bunch of old guys there, man. The barista, That's when started a round of indication and counter-indication spiced up by all kinds of virulent adjective, but all the while remaining somewhat friendly. All of a sudden, a conscientious Why do I write words that I cannot pronounce? Consensus took place among three old men, which I had to take the road going along the side of the church up to a fork. At the fork, on the retaining wall, a big rock was sticking out of it. I had to proceed on the right, and from there, no problem, straight all the way to Passavant-sur-Léon. From the cafe, all in all, according to what they were saying, more or less 5 kilometers only. Easy enough, no? Well, we'll see about that. I had the last cigarette before starting my 5 kilometer walk to the Chateau du Passavant. The village was burying his elder. At the death knell, it started to rain. As soon as that bell rang long, there's a little rain there. A few kilometers later, the famous rock in the wall is facing me. I took the right. He said right. While I walk a few more kilometers, practically nothing in sight, even less a castle. I walked and walked a little further. I saw two men that were trying to fix up an old lawnmower. I inquired from them my way to Passavant. They told me, and I walked like I pretty much 5 kilometers to get there. They told me that in about 5 kilometers, that I would come to a carrefour, and I would then proceed to my right, and I should be almost there. Easy enough, no? I walked and I walked, go through a T intersection, still no indication for the Passavant-sur-Léon. After another 2 or 3 more kilometers, that there was something wrong. So I turned around and walked back right through that T intersection again for a couple more kilometers, maybe 1.5 somewhere. I noticed this couple at the house getting ready to jump in a car, so I went to see them. I asked them Passavant-sur-Léon. They say, at the carrefour, I take right and then 5 kilometers more or less from the carrefour. I asked, what carrefour? Like Carreffour, right? Carrefour. Pointing far away ahead, they replied, the carrefour over there. Ah, the intersection. I told them that for me, being French-Canadian, a carrefour was like a shopping mall. But in France, a carrefour is a road intersection. There I go back to the carrefour, then right for another 5 kilometers. This time it's for real. I arrived to a hamlet. There's a sign proudly announcing Passavant-sur-Léon. Inside the entrance, there's a little rock structure on which, with justice, it is written Le Repos du Passavant, the Passavant's rest, I guess, comprising a sitting bench. I guess in Old French, Passavant must mean something like somebody that is passing by or walking, more or less, right? They're going through. So taking advantage of the beach, I can't read anymore. So taking advantage of the bench, I sat down to savor a victory smoke. I made it. Walking through Passavant-sur-Léon without problem, I found the castle. But when I wanted to enter the door of its surrounding walls, some dogs inside started to bark. Close to my goal, I came to a dead stop. I didn't want to be eaten alive. Going back on my steps, I heard voices coming from a house open windows. I went to the window and talked to a lady inside. If I remember well, she is part of the castle family. I told her my story, but that there were dogs barking, forbidding me from entering the castle walls. She said, no problem. The dogs are tied up. I never dared to look. Armed with renewed courage, I then entered the walls and kept on going to the castle side door. But this time I ignored the barks. Once at the door, a lady came out to greet me. I asked her if I could see Francois while explaining the reason of my coming. She went back in, and a young 30-year-old man came right out. That was Francois. So I brought out my notebooks and retraced where I wrote about his friend Frank Weber, reference number 13. As fast as I could realize, I ended up in the dining room inside the castle. Once I told him there, I said, woo, I'm inside. Sitting down, I didn't realize, suddenly I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down at a table with the whole family, a plate in front of me. I had arrived just in time for supper. The ones that are aware of my appetite might say that this was an already calculated plan of mine. Like, show up right for supper. I didn't have a clue, man. Here it is, I think, the whole David family. Jean, the father, Noël, the mother, François, the son, Claire, the oldest daughter, her husband Olivier, Olivier and Claire, 3 children, Juliette, Aubin, Marion, Isabelle, Noël and Jean, youngest daughter, and Isabelle's boyfriend, Louis-Marie. After supper, it is bedtime, so they set me up in the friend's room. I showered and hopped in bed. I slept like a king. Can you imagine one night you sleep somewhere outside, in a field, and the night after you sleep in a castle? After breakfast, they offered me to do my laundry. I really needed it. My last laundry went back 10 days prior in Switzerland. I had a wonderful day visiting the castle itself and the inside walled court and learning a bit of its history. At noontime, I was introduced to Louis-Marie. Together we laughed, it's a guy, right? We laughed all along from the get-go. Louis-Marie is Isabelle's boyfriend, Noël is Jean's youngest daughter. François, le maître de chai, the master winemaker lab thing there, invited me to visit his laboratory, his lab, right? His great-grandfather had bought the castle after the First World War and wanted to give it back its winemaking attributes. Before supper, Noël, carrying a little stick to scare away possible little vipers, little snake there, brought me to one of the castle cave, to pick some wine bottles. You might call it the cellars, but big, long cellars, right? A few years ago, someone in the family decided to dig at the end of the cave, since it seemed to go further down. They dug at the end and they suddenly start to turn, so a complete new cave, they start digging their way. A complete new cave was discovered containing hundreds, if not thousands, of wine bottles, unlabeled, of course. That was from the stash that Noël was expertly picking and choosing some bottles to drink and a couple doubtful ones to be analyzed by François. Surprise, surprise! Once they got at the end of this cave, when they're digging there, it still seems to be going downwards. So they'll keep on digging, if possible, very hard and expensive task. They were not, there wasn't a plan, but not like tomorrow. Who knows, maybe they'll discover another complete cave with perhaps a few 100 years old wine bottles. It could be like 700 years old, right? I don't know. During my second supper at the castle, I inquired about the possibilities for me to be able to work for them during harvest. But alas, Noël told me that they did some extensive work last year and that for sure this year they wouldn't escape being controlled. So the day after, by 12:30, after a last wine tasting at the Chair, I left with Louis-Marie, reference 39. He brought me to Laurence, one of his close lady friends. Laurence brought me to spend an incredible night with some of her other friends, François and Babette. We drove back to our place very late. So early in the morning, Laurence, reference number 30, drove me back on the road to adventures.